I work at the Islamic Financial Services Board, the IFSB, and we were established in 2003. Our job is to issue standards, global standards, and these standards are essentially guiding principles for the regulation and supervision of Islamic finance. And in establishing the IFSB, it was intended that we be the direct counterpart of the other global standard setters, and principally the Basel Committee for Banking Supervision, BCBS, which is based in Basel, and two others, which are the International Organization of Securities Associations, IOSCO, and then the IAIS, which is the International Association of Insurance Supervisors. So whereas conventional finance has three standard setters, we have one for prudential regulation and supervision, covering banking, capital markets, and takaful. And we are based in Malaysia. The organization was established by a group of visionary central bank governors who were joined also by the president of the Islamic Development Bank, and they decided to establish us in Malaysia. We are not the only standard setter in Islamic finance. There is, for example, the very important institution in Bahrain called IOFI, the Accounting and Auditing Organization for Islamic Financial Institutions. But our job focuses on prudential regulation and supervision. You know, I think unless you have values instilled at the very beginning, it's very difficult to have an organization or its stakeholders focus on what you call fair returns. By fair returns, I'm presuming that you're talking about a wider concern for issues beyond making profits. So social issues, social impact issues, maybe climate change issues, maybe equality issues. So clearly values have to come in at the very beginning. The idea of ethics has to be a precondition for that kind of outcome to be something that you can be confident in a business environment. That's a very interesting question. If you look first at the concept of fiduciary duty, I think fiduciary duty is something that has always been there as a concept and as a benchmark. But I think what we're seeing after the financial crisis is a recognition that a narrow concept of fiduciary duty is no longer feasible. We need a broader concept. So my view is that prior to the crisis, we were essentially looking at an environment in which businesses and management thought that their fiduciary responsibility was only to their shareholders. It was to maximize profits. Now, I'm perhaps exaggerating a little bit, but after the crisis, we can see that that kind of narrow focus can have disastrous consequences. And so I think the idea of fiduciary responsibility, which is grounded in ancient times, in common law, as well as in the concept of trust, which has a strong parallel in Islamic law going back centuries. I think that idea is now being rethought in the right way. Stewardship is a broader concept, and stewardship is a concept in which both conventional and Islamic finance can find, I think, convergence as well as consensus. So for us in Islamic finance, the idea of stewardship enters from aspects of Sharia law, which say basically that, let me give one clear example, which is that we are the stewards of all of the resources given to us by God Almighty. And that means really that that is the starting point for shaping Islamic finance transactions towards one of the greatest challenges that exists today in the modern world, which is climate change. So I've used stewardship in a narrow sense, but you can easily think of stewardship in a larger sense as corporations and businesses and individuals having a responsibility to not just make profits, not just focus on fiduciary responsibilities narrowly defined, but to see themselves as stewards of the world's resources, of their communities, of their neighbors, and so on.